Well, I was just talking about Lori Hopkins Cavanagh, and she was with me a week or so ago. She is as I said, a political commentator, radio talk show host at 94.9 FM, one of our stations in New London, and she is the founder. She is the founder of the American Liberty Center. Lori, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Brad. How are you today?
Well, I am fine, and I was just talking about you and how you are someone who gets into some subjects that you believe people should know about and sometimes are hidden on the radio. We just shouldn't talk about them. I don't agree with that. I think that people have to know what is going on. And this is very, very controversial. And I was just looking at some of the information, and I understand, and you can verify this for me, that Connecticut is the first state in the country where transgender inmates will be housed according to their gender identity. Where did you find that, Lori?
Well, Malloy has signed this into law. It's going to go into effect July 1st. And basically it's part of a much larger transgender cultural Marxist movement that Connecticut has embraced. This is a global movement, and it's being done for specific reasons, which I'd like to connect the dots for the listening audience, if you don't mind. But to go back to this transgender inmates, not only will they, if that inmate identifies as the opposite sex, which they are now teaching that there is no such thing as a man and a woman in our public school systems. That's going into effect as well in Connecticut. And so if a person who is an inmate and incarcerated identifies as a woman, even though they have all of their male body parts and were identified, their marker, they call them markers, on their birth certificate as a male, and that person is married and has children, or divorced and has children, if they decide that they want to be a female because emotionally they are having trouble with being a male, the state of Connecticut now is, according to law, will treat them according to their self-designed identity. And the correction officers will have to address them with the proper pronouns. They have to look at a man who has a full beard and the right equipment and address that person with a she if that inmate wants to be called a she, and they have to be given access to clothing and toiletries that match their gender identity, whatever they think they are.
Lori, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
With the women.
Let me ask you this, Lori. How come, though, we haven't heard about it here in the state of Connecticut if this is happening?
Well, this has been going on for a very, very long time, and it's very complex, where it started, how it started, and how it was embraced. But basically, it came through sort of a psychobabble series. What if there wasn't a man and a woman? What if there were not a Bible? What if God didn't create a man and a woman? And it all has to do with breaking down Christianity and getting rid of the Bible. In California and in the state of Connecticut right now, they have passed laws that if a licensed Christian counselor is counseling according to biblical beliefs, someone who has been raped or molested as a male or a female that has gender identity problems, if they're a minor, that Christian counselor will lose their license if they teach the Bible. The Bible is being outlawed in California right now and in Connecticut through commerce laws.
Let me interrupt you here. Are you saying that we cannot say that we read the Bible? Is that what you're saying?
Well, in the Bible, of course, it says that God created man and woman. And they are getting rid of gender identity. So they've taken transsexual, the word transsexual, and they've changed it to transgender to be a political movement to attack Christianity. And in California, this same act, in Connecticut, it's called Public Act 17-5. And it was passed by every senator in the state, including Republicans and Democrats. And only 8 representatives voted against it. And this Public Act 17-5 is unconstitutional. It denies parents their rights to raise their children as they deem fit, and it forces their kids in the school system now. They have adopted, and this is very important that people know, there is a guideline out right now. It's called Connecticut Safe School Coalition, Guidelines for Connecticut Schools to comply with gender identity and expression non-discrimination laws. It's very important that grandparents and parents take their minor children out of public schools or get involved in curriculum, because K through 12, they believe, and this is written by the state of Connecticut, that children have their gender identity decided before they are 4 years old.
But
in other words, they're not... Go ahead.
Lori, just let me you know very well that parents are not going to take their kids out of public school. They can't afford to send them all to private school. That's one of the problems that they're going to have. So what is the answer here?
Well, there's a couple of solutions. Number one, in the state of Connecticut, there is a law that every single municipality that has a school system, that they have a curriculum review board, and that review board contains at least one parent. Many of the municipalities are not following the law. Every parent should be involved and understand what their kindergartners, first through second, third, fourth, fifth grade, what they're being taught. And the new K through 12 curriculum is that there is no such thing as a man and a woman. Your teacher can come in, your male teacher can come into any classroom in the state of Connecticut where they're employed in a dress and teach the kids in front of the students dressed as the opposite sex, because they identify with whatever they want to identify with. I mean, this is insanity, and it's not based on science. It's not a civil rights issue. This is it's what they're doing is just, it's monstrous in so many ways. So you can take your kids out of public school. You do not have to put them in private schools. You can homeschool them, and we talked about that last week. And I'm so glad you're an advocate of homeschooling. There are so many resources.
I have always been
online.
an advocate of homeschooling. But I mean, if parents, my mother was a school teacher, okay? Mm-hmm. And when I was young, I was homeschooled by my mom, and then I went on to school, and I used to hold a book upside down when I first started to read. So, she was a teacher, though, and she taught in school, and she taught me at home till I caught on. Let's put it that way.
Well, there are options today, and there's so many wonderful programs online that are free or affordable, and there's so many resources for parents and grandparents. But what they're teaching these children in kindergarten, they want to get them before they turn 4 years old and tell them there's no such thing as mommy and daddy. There's no such thing as a man and a woman. And they're taking away the rights of all women.
You're saying that in schools in Connecticut, Connecticut, there are teachers that are saying that.
They have to say it. It's if the parents get involved and they know what's going on a local level, they can stop it right now. In California, the parents can't stop it. You can't opt your kid out of this education, and you're not allowed to stop it. But what they're doing, I mean, when you read through this again, Connecticut Safe School Coalition, guidelines for Connecticut schools to comply with gender identity and expression. And they talk about the fact that, little girls can dress as boys and boys can dress as girls. And it's perfectly okay for a 5-year-old boy who is sexually, gender-wise, born a complete male with all of the right equipment, should be encouraged. As a matter of fact, you're not allowed, the psychologists at school can lose their license if they say, coming to school dressed as a girl might cause problems. No, none of those discussions are allowed to take place any longer because it's against the law. This was Public Act number 17.5. It was just passed, and it is really designed to get rid of the Bible and Christianity and all teachings and traditional family values. That's what they're going for.
Now, your organization, American Liberty Center, I know that you've been all over speaking and that you truly have the facts on this information, or you wouldn't be saying it. But again,
it's complex, very complex.
But we don't hear anything about this. I'm being honest here. We don't hear anything about this.
Well, if you just look up, for example, this is really scary. This is really from the United Nations, but if you just Google transgender medicine, you're going to see why this is happening. They want to get kids before they reach puberty to change their gender. In other words, they're going to start giving. And 1 out of 6 kids right now in elementary school is on a psychotropic drug. And now they're going to be giving them hormones that will stunt their puberty because they're going to say at 4 years old, this little boy should be a girl. I mean, look up Middlesex Hospital. They have 20 doctors waiting to take little boys' equipment, remove it, and lob off little girls' equipment and stick them on drugs that will change their hormones. This is barbaric. It's monstrous. People need to know about it. It's not normal. It's not acceptable. And I don't know why folks don't know. You're absolutely right, Brad, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about what is happening to our children and warn parents you need to check out your school system, find out what the curriculum is. Don't just settle for this. We don't have to settle for this. These should be our schools, not their schools.
And again, I know that you have talked about this, and you really, have facts. But what I'm trying to say is, wouldn't you think, though, if this all was going on, that we would hear something about it? And,
well,
this is the first time because you have come on this program, and I wanted you to come on and talk about it.
Well, they don't want people to know about it. This year in particular, not only, they passed this transgender conversion law that will outlaw biblical counseling completely in Connecticut. You will lose your license. We're going to American Liberty Center is going to challenge that. We are actually going to set up a reparative conversion therapy center, and we are going to probably get arrested or whatever they're going to do to us, but I really don't care because this is unconstitutional, and we will win in court. We might not win. It might go up to the Supreme Court, but we will fight this. They're fighting it in California much better than Connecticut, which is amazing. Connecticut, you're not hearing much at all in the newspaper. They don't cover these issues. So the social issues are being hidden. This conversion therapy law, literally, I don't think any psychologists in the state of Connecticut even knew about it. This was a national cultural Marxist movement, and 9 states have passed similar laws. So this is all being done, and it's been happening for many years now to progress towards this. And I like being a woman. I enjoy and I love testosterone and maleness. Everything that is male should be celebrated and enjoyed as maleness. But these laws are designed to teach kids there's no such thing as male and female and maleness and womanness.
Well, Lori, the reason that you're on this program is because I invited you, and I wanted you to give your message to this radio audience, and I don't think this is the end of it, and I know that you will be back and talk about it as this investigation continues, and I know that I'm going to be criticized for this, but what I want to know what is going on, and if parents are not getting this, they should get it and have a say. And this is what I am for. And this is the reason that I invited you on the program.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Brad. And, I think that the people of faith, and even people who do not believe in the Bible, there's repercussions to these laws that are going to just be, it is going to be mayhem. In other words, you can't have, women need they talk about safe spaces. A lot of women want to go to a gym and work out with other women. They don't want to work out with men. That's now not going to be allowed. There will be no safe spaces for gender left in this state.
Lori, I thank you for calling me this morning. We will talk again. And I've got to go because we're running out of time. But
have a great day, Brad. Thank you.
No, thank you for this. And I just want to make sure that the story is out there and we see what the reaction of parents will be. So thank you and have a good weekend.
Take care.
You bet. Lori Hopkins Cavanagh, and again, founder of the American Liberty Center. Coming up to 10 minutes now before the hour of 8 o'clock, and we will be right back. Okay, coming up to 7:54, and the lines are loaded up. Let's go to David in Middletown. David, good morning. Good morning.
Hey, Brad, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
All right, Brad. You had an excellent interview there with that lady. Very informative. Brad, I would love to know who the senators in the state, in the House and the Senate, and who voted for that on the Republican side. I'd be really curious, Brad, if you could call up a couple of the people, get them on the air, and find out how they actually voted for that.
I was wondering if anybody would ask this, and the phones are loaded right now. And of course, I'm in communications with Lori Hopkins Cavanagh. She's on one of our stations. She's on once a week at 94.9 FM. That's in New London. But she also is the founder, as I said, of American Liberty Center. So we will follow through. I'm sure that there are others that feel the same. You'd like to know who, because she followed this.
I mean, she said, I think it was only like half a dozen or so voted against it. Everybody else, Democrat, Republican, voted for it.
That's right.
Okay, I get the Democrats are going to vote for that. That's right up their, their alley. But, I mean, the so-called conservatives in the state of Connecticut, they're not, and Brad, please, we don't have conservatives in this state anymore. But you were touching earlier about church and religion and how people are not going. Well, Brad, this is a perfect example of why.
David, I'm glad you called me, and we're going to follow through. Don't you worry about that. Thank you. Let's go to Frank in Watertown. Frank, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Brad. Excellent. That lady, Lori, was excellent, and that gentleman is exactly right. And you're going to have more people with you than criticizing you on this. I
really don't care if they criticize. I'm going to do the story.
I know that, Brad. Of course, you're a Marine. You'll take it on head on. But I think one of the things, like that gentleman said, let's get a conservative in there, a couple conservatives with Lori in there, and also somebody from the prison department to see, is this costing us more money now because we have this transgender thing where they got to be separated? Is it costing the state more money? And get somebody in from the prison, see how they're adapting to it with a conservative senator and this lady there, so that they can't back out, because she knows what she's talking about, and find out why they voted for this, because they're taking the rights away from the parents. This goes into the fact that where they were in some of the schools having girls have abortions without the parents knowing. Boy, if I ever found that out, oh boy, that would.
Frank,
really...
let me say this to you.
Yeah.
I knew that we would get response like this. However, what I'm going to do, okay? There are many of you, I'm sure. I've still got people calling, and there are many of you out there that want to make a statement, want to find out. So what I am going to recommend, and I know I'll be able to do, I want to take an hour of the program someday get Lori in here so that people like yourselves can ask questions and she can answer these questions. We'll find out the names of some of those folks who voted and why they voted for it, and see if we can get one or two of them in here. So this is just the beginning, but it's something that I want to talk about. So I thank you, Frank, for calling.
Good. Make an announcement on that, Brad, so that we all know exactly when this has happened.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry about that. Thank you.
Go get him, Brad.
Bob in East Hartford. Bob, good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Brad.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, the two callers before me just touched on one of the subjects I want to discuss, and all my questions are answered there. But I had a topic from yesterday that I couldn't get through. This Starbucks issue, I don't have to go into it. Everybody that listens to the news knows about it. But, the other night I was in a pizza restaurant with my wife, and we're sitting at a booth, and I started thinking about that. And with this precedent that they set about the Starbucks,
yep.
Anybody can just walk into a restaurant, occupy a table or a booth, and not order anything. And if the outcome is going to have to be the same as what Starbucks did or was forced to do, what's going to happen? I don't know if you got my email from yesterday. You probably get flooded with emails. So
I got some that I haven't looked at yet. I have to tell you that.
Yeah, well, I get too many, and I can imagine how many you get. So, but